Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Santa Ana winds will cut through parts of our region in the coming days. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Now, the National Weather Service is issuing a fire weather watch for parts of San Diego County. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says it will take effect later this week.
Dry and windy weather is ahead of us. After last week's fire near San Diego State University caused thousands of evacuation warnings, some San Diegans should brace for more fire-prone weather this week.
The fire weather watch means that conditions could lead to red flag. And what that means is we could see strong wind and very low humidity over our foothills and mountains where a lot of our critical dry fuel is sitting right now.
National Weather Service meteorologist Alex Tardy says stronger Santa Ana winds are expected from Wednesday evening into Thursday afternoon. It's expected to be the strongest and most widespread Santa Ana event in the region so far this year.
So now you can set up by making sure, your leaves are picked up, that you don't have piles of brush near your house. Make sure that there's defensible space if you live in the foothills and the lower elevations of the mountains, because we know what happens when all these ingredients meet up.
CAL FIRE Captain Mike Cornett says they are ready and fully staffed at all 42 stations countywide. And as conditions change, they have
capabilities to bring on extra staffing, extra fire engines, hand crews, dozers. We can early up aircraft, move some aircraft around. But at our present time right now, we're not, none of those plans are in effect.
He says now is peak fire season in the county, and the vegetation is dry due to a lack of rain.
The moisture of the fuel is to a critical point where it's going to be able to let the fire grow faster and kind of pre-burn that is compared to if the fuel is greener, it would be a little bit slower.
So far, no red flag warning has been issued in San Diego County, but Santa Ana winds are creating widespread critical fire conditions across much of Southern California this Wednesday and Thursday. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And the city of San Diego has enlisted the help of some four-legged friends to reduce fire risk. Coming up, a look at how goats are clearing brush around the Miramar Dam.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up tonight, temperatures will drop back to the 50s across San Diego, and we will be clear and cool. And cool will be the name of the game here as we head into the day Wednesday as the Santa Ana winds kick back up. We'll let you know when the warmer and calmer conditions move back in. That's all coming up tonight.
And it's almost here. Tomorrow is Election Day, and Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are delivering their last pitches to voters. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook has more.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are using the last hours before Election Day to make their final pitches to voters.
America is ready for a fresh start, ready for a new way forward, where we see our fellow American not as an enemy, but as a neighbor.
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? With your vote tomorrow, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country.
While a historic switch-up at the top of the Democratic ticket led Harris to run an accelerated campaign.
We are going to win. I do believe that.
This is Trump's third time as the Republican nominee.
We're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to win back that beautiful White House.
The race for the 270 electoral votes needed to win will likely come down to a handful of battleground states. Then there's the balance of power on Capitol Hill, with tight races for control of both chambers. In the House, currently controlled by Republicans, all 435 seats are on the ballot.
We're still have a pathway to grow the majority, but we'll see how things play out. There's just a lot of races that are really close.
In the Senate, currently controlled by Democrats, roughly a third of the 100 seats are up for grabs.
I believe we're going to hold our majority, but it will be close. It's going to go right down to the wire.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
And a poll of likely California voters shows presidential candidate Kamala Harris underperforming in a state where she and President Joe Biden won handily 4 years ago. Democrat Harris was the preferred candidate of only 53% of respondents in the poll. Donald Trump got 38%. By comparison, Joe Biden won California by more than 63% in 2020. The poll is from San Diego-based Competitive Edge Research and Communication. Competitive Edge President John Nienstedt says he expects some undecided or third-party voters will decide to vote for Harris come Election Day.
I think she will come in the high 50s, which is going to be around 5 to 6% less than where Biden was. The implication there is nationally, that's a good sign for Donald Trump, right? Because if she's underperforming in California, what does that say for the rest of the country?
And Competitive Edge also polled people on California's Senate race, where the expected winner is Democrat Adam Schiff. In that contest, Schiff won the support of 52% of respondents, while Republican Steve Garvey got 42%. Well, KPBS recently held a community conversation with South Bay leaders, experts, influencers, and new voices committed to uplifting the community. The aim was to understand what drives, challenges, and informs their decisions in the 2024 presidential election. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says in the South Bay, where many residents have close ties to immigrant communities, voting isn't just about civic duty. It's a chance to make their voices heard in a system they say often overlooks them.
And then what are the barriers, that we're facing, that our friends and family, our communities are struggling with?
One of the biggest concerns the group expressed was fear of division and fear of picking a side. Many residents say they feel pressure to cast their vote.
I feel sometimes there are times where it's like, okay, they're balancing themselves out. It's not, the world's not going to end. Now it feels like it's gonna,
Misinformation has also become a major hurdle. Several participants say that without clear, culturally relevant information, they struggle to make informed decisions. Jose Mondragon was part of the conversation. He's also teaching Mi Voz, Mi Voto workshops for the Chicano Federation.
To continue to inform and educate communities about the importance of voting. Your voice, your vote matters, right? That's, you have that power. You can exercise this if you're eligible to vote.
Many of the participants say they get their news online. The Pew Research Center reports that Latinos are more likely than Black or white Americans to get their news from social media. This trend increases the chances of encountering and sharing misinformation. Marissa Abrajano has been studying the Latino electorate for almost 20 years.
So, those who do rely on Spanish social media, we found that there is this positive relationship with being more likely to believe in these false political narratives. And we know, especially amongst the Latino community and for much of the Spanish-speaking community, they have been targeted with lots of these falsehoods going back to the 2020 presidential election.
Abrajano says that social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram have less robust fact-checking measures for non-English content due to higher costs. She says on WhatsApp, a free encrypted messaging app popular with U.S. Latinos, fact-checking is non-existent.
So all of these news links that are posted and information that you see, it's very hard to validate whether or not this information is actually true or not. And I think an added complication, especially in this day and age where it's not just news that's produced here in the United States, but worldwide.
Community members say the impact of misinformation extends to feelings of distrust towards candidates and policies. That makes it difficult for some to discern fact from fiction. they look to trusted figures to serve as guides, people who can break down complex issues in a way that feels relatable.
Super Vaccine Bato headquarters de State Your Emergency Homes.
Political cartoonist Lalo Alcaraz created a series of cartoons and animations promoting vaccines during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
There was a lot of misinformation to fight there. And then as that went along, it wasn't just, the migrant farm workers that needed that information. It was guys I went to college with that should have known better.
Orale, this is the first shot, Holmes. You need this.
He uses slang and cultural references in his cartoons to resonate with viewers.
It wouldn't be Mexican if it didn't have some cussing in it, right?
Now, he's working with Voto Latino, a national civic engagement organization. He's creating cartoons to encourage voting and battle election misinformation.
There's no word in Spanish for fact-checking, that term does not exist.
Back at the community conversation, Mondragon believes that political education should start early and continue beyond the election.
There's just so much at stake, right? There's this, there's feelings and emotions that are involved with the process of just, this upcoming election and voting.
With more outreach and resources that reflect the unique needs of the South Bay, residents say they would feel more motivated to participate. As they gear up for tomorrow's election, this community is asking for support and information that could help them overcome these challenges. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Security surrounding tomorrow's election will be tight across the country. KPBS reporter John Carroll looked into the security situation in San Diego County on this eve of Election Day.
They're not taking any chances in Nevada, Oregon, and Washington state. All three of those states have placed their National Guards on standby for tomorrow's big vote. Not so in California, but there is still concern. KPBS viewer Arturo Toscano wrote to us asking what to do if someone is, quote, observing them voting and does not allow them to do it peacefully. Toscano wonders how to go about reporting that and what legal recourse he has. It's a question I put to Registrar of Voters Cynthia Paz.
They should alert the poll worker.
Paz went on to say there have been no instances of voter intimidation in San Diego County in the days of early voting, and she doesn't expect any.
We're well prepared for this election. Our poll workers are trained in de-escalation techniques to ensure a positive voting experience for all voters. Our elections here in San Diego County, they are open and transparent. We welcome the community to come in and observe every step of the process.
But if there is an issue and de-escalation doesn't work, law enforcement is ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Still, the San Diego County Sheriff's Office says they haven't picked up any threats to the voting process here either.
I think we've taken a very good proactive approach to it. We have our resources identified to enhance if need be. And we've got folks at our Sheriff's Operations Center kind of monitoring everything to include, like I said, our FBI and our federal partners.
Voting centers will stay open until 8 tomorrow night. Paz says the first results will be released shortly after, the next step in a process that has gone smoothly so far, one that Paz says she's confident will be exciting and hopefully uneventful. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Doom scrolling, catastrophizing, sleeplessness, angst over tomorrow's presidential election has reached a fevered pitch across the country as Americans fear democracy is on the wane and further disunity is on the rise. KPBS's Amita Sharma spoke with a few local voters about their election distress.
Election anxiety is not new. There was a lot of that in the 2020 presidential election. Now it's next level. Many voters can't tune out the never-ending polls with their blue, red, purple maps and charts, the incessant cable news / podcast coverage, and really the talk about it all among friends, family, and colleagues. Key questions underscoring the worry: when will we know the results of the election? Will they be challenged? Who will win the challenge? El Cajon voter Mary Jo Petrovelli says relief from all of this won't happen anytime soon.
If Donald Trump wins, I worry what will happen to our country, what will happen to the undocumented immigrants that are in our, in our communities and in and around us. What will happen to women, and what will happen? What will happen? He has made all kinds of threats. He has said all kinds of things. What if some of those actually come true?
She is equally worried if Vice President Kamala Harris wins.
Will there be violence? Will there be another insurrection? Will there be reasons for people to do violence against our capital or people that don't agree with them? What will happen? And all of that makes me nervous.
Petrovelli actually finds it soothing to scroll through news sources, even those opposite to her own views, speaking with friends with different political opinions, and binge-watching Netflix. Another local voter, Alan Hoving, believes the best cure for his election stress is to work to help fellow Americans understand the stakes of the election.
Last weekend, I was over in Arizona, which is my adopted battleground state, and we were canvassing and making sure that every vote counts. I don't necessarily tell people who I'm voting for or tell them who to vote for.
Some voters are seeking professional help for their election stress, but even those who seek therapists regularly for other matters use some of their time to vent about the election. An American Psychological Association survey showed 7 in 10 adults say the election is a source of stress for them. San Diego therapist David Peters says both his clients and colleagues are tense about what may happen next in the United States. Peters says it's important for people to deep breathe and take extra care of their minds and bodies during this time, and reminds them that this country has faced challenges in the past and pulled through. He spoke about the need for hope back in May when we first discussed this.
I think hope is a moral position. If we give up hope, we have become part of the problem. We pull out of the civil society and we get out of our own responsibility. Hope is the way in which we can influence the world to heal.
Hoving says he has firmly parked his faith in his fellow citizens. KPBS reached out to speak to voters supporting Trump. They did not respond. Amitha Sharma, KPBS News.
Severe weather threats and rain are in the forecast for several states ahead of Election Day. Here's Laura Aguirre on how officials are working to ensure voters can still get to the polls.
I looked outside and within like 5 seconds, all hell broke loose.
Shane Barker and his dog are among many tornado survivors in Oklahoma City. The National Weather Service says at least 5 twisters, 2 of those powerful EF3 strength, tore through parts of the state overnight Saturday into Sunday. Many residents only had seconds to scramble to safety in the dark, awakened by warnings sent to their cell phones.
I could only see when there was flashes of lightning, like as we were going, but it was just random things like moving.
One of those things was a neighbor's boat, which landed in Katie Anderson's backyard. By the light of day, the full scope of the devastation came into focus. Several homes and businesses flattened or heavily damaged.
It was war zone. The whole roof was just rolled into a burrito, basically.
At least one school lost a good portion of its roof. The state's governor announcing Sunday there's an emergency declaration for 6 counties, and officials are working to ensure all polling places have power ahead of Tuesday's presidential election. There was no relief for the region Monday, with thunderstorm, tornado, wind, and large hail threats persisting from southern Texas up into western Illinois. And through Election Day, the Storm Prediction Center is tracking rainfall between 1 and 3 inches across the central and midwestern U.S., including Wisconsin and Michigan, 2 closely watched swing states. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
The city of San Diego has brought in about 350 goats to remove brush around the dam at the Miramar Reservoir. KPBS reporter Melissa May joins the herd and explains how these goats are making the land better for the environment.
This herd of goats, also known as a trip of goats, are on the move to the south side of the Miramar Reservoir. These four-legged employees have been hired to do what they do best: eat.
So the goats are here to clear the vegetation for visibility so that we can inspect the dam and ensure that it's holding and everything is, just so we can see the dam and inspect it for our daily inspections, as well as it limits the fuel load for fires as well.
Tim Bridenstine is a reservoir maintenance supervisor for the city of San Diego.
This is our first go through with the goats. Very impressed.
The goats have been eating up the brush around the reservoir for about 2 weeks. Here's what they left on the west side. The city gets the goats from a company called Environmental Land Management Goats. Johnny Gonzalez is the company's field operations manager. He says the animals are eating some native vegetation and invasive grasses and weeds.
Both are required so we can maintain the security and the access to the dam. But mainly they're removing seeds of the invasive grasses. They're converting it in such that we are going to maintain the pH of the soils so we keep the root system growing of the native plants. This is all for soil integrity and plant restoration.
The goats' droppings return nutrients back to the soil too, without impacting the water supply.
They're nitrogen neutral in their pellets. They're not going to create a bloom. They have no seeds in their droppings, and the bacterial load is so minimal that they're practically considered inert.
Normally, this work would be done by human crews with gas-powered equipment. Bridenstine says goats are better for the environment at about the same cost.
We felt this might be a greener option to utilize some goats instead of having people out here with weed whips and the noise.
The goats will be at Lake Miramar through Tuesday. When they're done, they'll have cleared about 12 acres of vegetation. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Let's break it down with your weather headlines here after those Santa Ana winds kicking it in to start our week. Things settling a bit more through tonight, and then we'll track some warmer temperatures through the day on Tuesday. But as we head into Wednesday, the winds pick back up and cooler temperatures Wednesday and Thursday before warmer Friday into the weekend. Temperatures tonight under a clear sky down to 45 in Borrego Springs, San Diego down to 50 in Mount Laguna. A chilly 35 degrees, but overall a pretty nice Tuesday on tap as things remain dry as we head into the day and temperatures come up a little bit compared to where we were today. That puts us back into the 80s for Borrego Springs, upper 50s in Mount Laguna, and 73 in San Diego, Oceanside 74, and Chula Vista, your temperatures into the lower 70s. I mentioned the winds picking back up. You can see the Santa Ana winds taking back over Wednesday and Thursday across Southern California, where our relative humidity stays low. So there's going to be an increased fire danger as we head into the middle and end of the week. We take you out the next 5 days along the coast here, where mostly sunny conditions for Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures coming back up before cooling back down a bit more as we head into the start of the weekend. We take you out the next 5 days a bit further inland, where we'll start to watch temperatures warm back up, upper 70s for Tuesday and Wednesday, 79 with sunshine on Thursday, and Friday looks to be the warmest day of the week with 80 degrees. For the mountains over the next couple of days, temperatures will be falling pretty quickly Wednesday and Thursday. Much colder there, with overnight temperatures dropping back into the 20s and afternoon highs only into the 40s. We'll stay into the 40s on Friday with plenty of sunshine, but temperatures come back up throughout the day on Saturday. To the desert we go, where 80 degrees, pleasant for Tuesday, but much cooler as we head into Wednesday. And we keep those cooler temperatures Thursday and Friday before back to the upper 70s on Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm Mariela Scalise.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the News Hour, the presidential candidates make their final push in the swing states on this election eve. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A young San Diego artist is combining activism with art to get his peers interested in democracy. KPBS arts reporter Julia Dixon-Evans shows us how Alliance San Diego's youth program is working to get out the vote.
My relationship with art has always been political.
Christian Araguin is the youth artist in residence for Alliance San Diego, a nonprofit that engages the community in the democratic process. He wants his art to inspire young people in his Chicano community to vote.
So for me, it's about wanting to paint the people that I know, the faces that I see. I am painting the people in my community, and a lot of these propositions will directly be affecting my community members.
Aragin made 2 poster-style paintings during his residency. One, inspired by Shepard Fairey's Obama poster, depicts a young man in a Padres hat holding a ballot. Another draws on his Michoacan lineage with a monarch butterfly and gold leaf accents.
So the vision with the actual painting itself was just to take that isolated moment of someone voting and bringing out the beauty in it.
According to recent California state data, young voters aged 18 to 25 make up 11.9% of San Diego County registered voters. Alliance San Diego's Civic Engagement Director, Itzel Maganda Chavez, says reaching young voters requires a tailored approach.
I think there's definitely a need for organizations to step in and make their content digestible for young people.
Aragin is 18, and this will be his first election. He says many of his peers are interested in politics, but not everyone feels their voices matter yet.
The mantra that I keep saying to myself is like, okay, it doesn't matter if you feel seen or heard, like this is part of a bigger picture. Like you're claiming space in these areas so that you'll be able to be seen and heard. And not just myself, but I think like on a larger scale, like younger people in general.
Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
And we want to let you know about our plans for election night. KPBS will have special coverage of the local results, and that starts at 10 o'clock on television and streaming online. We will also have updates throughout the night on KPBS FM. We'll also have plenty of election content on KPBS Midday Edition, and that includes an interview with the San Diego County Registrar of Voters. That airs at noon on KPBS FM. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.